in Woodland Hills, California. Hey, David, thanks for listening to SiriusXM. What's on your mind today?
Thank you. Great show today on so many topics, and great Steve King rant. I would hope something would happen there. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
I would like to make the case, unfortunately, why I believe we are headed for very violent times. As you may remember, I'm part of a Facebook political group with liberals and conservatives. I wanted to honestly debate conservatives, and using Thom Hartmann water cooler logic, I was kicking ass on a regular basis. It was almost unfair. I got the group to start fact-checking and sourcing what they were saying, and then it began to become more and more name-calling on both sides with little or no debate, and the conservatives flat-out refusing to critically evaluate Donald Trump. It just wasn't happening.
Right.
And I was getting very, very discouraged, and then the death threats started coming in.
To you as the administrator of this area on Facebook?
I wasn't the administrator. I was just a member, and my arguments were, Thom Hartmann water cooler arguments were so good, the only thing they could do was start death threats. And
wow.
You've seen The Godfather, right?
Yes.
Greatest movie ever made.
It's been a lot of years, but yeah.
There's a scene in it where the five families are at war. They've gone to the mattresses, and the old pro is talking to the young Michael Corleone, and he says, every generation or so, you got to get out the bad blood. There's no other way. They're not going to listen to reason. It's beyond that now. And I fear that as a nation, we may be there now. And there's one more thing I'd like to say. Somebody called in, and I think they said only you can talk on Fox News. And we all need to be calling all of these right-wing hate shows every single chance we get. I've called the Mark Levin show 3 or 4 times. He hangs up on me every time. Second time I called him, he hung up on me and yelled at me for the next 45 minutes. Through 2 or 3 commercial breaks, he comes back still yelling at me.
You're talking about the call screener?
No, Mark Levin.
Himself?
Himself. He's yelled at me for 45, and the topic was, why do conservatives hate the Constitution when it comes to promoting the general welfare?
Right.
And he started talking about, I think, Madison, who wrote the thing, who I think he was going to say that Madison was opposed to that, and I said there were a number of founding fathers, and they wrote it twice in there. But
sure.
So we all need to be calling these shows because it's the only way their audience hears something different. Yeah.
I'm impressed that Mark Levin actually put you on the air. I haven't listened to his show in a lot of years, in large part because I almost never drive, and that's where I was listening to right-wing radio. Yeah, I go on Fox when they ask me to because I think that we need to be talking back within their bubble. We need to, our voice needs to be heard. Their bubble is constantly coming into our bubble, as it were. You watch MSNBC is the closest thing that we have, or Free Speech TV obviously is, a good progressive television network, but it doesn't have the national penetration of MSNBC, and that network is like 50% Republicans. It's like, so the right-wing bubble is constantly in our face. You go through CNN, of course, and then Trump and everything else. But we're very rarely in their face. And the Democratic primary, this is what's so exciting about the Democratic primary, is we're having people in the Democratic primary now speaking out and saying, in fact, Trump, in his little Rose Garden thing just a few minutes ago, said, we're not going to expand the Supreme Court. It's not ever going to happen. Why is he saying that? Because, a couple of the Democrats, I believe Elizabeth Warren and maybe Pete Buttigieg, have suggested that, it's time to pack the court. It's time to expand the Supreme Court. So, but David, to your point about violence, this concerns me tremendously. I mean, Steve King not only suggested that there would be a civil war, and that if there was a civil war, that the red states have 8 trillion more bullets than the blue states, but he also took a kick at trans people by saying, the blue states can't figure out which bathroom to use. It was homophobia on top of every other kind of phobia and hate that Steve King is so famous for promulgating. And if you look back at the civil war that we had in the 1860s, or for that matter, the American Revolution. I mean, Jimmy Carter wrote a brilliant novel about this. Only about a third of Americans supported the American Revolution at the time that it began. And there were people fighting against their own families in the American Revolution, just like, you know, in the Civil War. These are huge, painful, destructive moments for America. I don't think that they were any kind of purification. I mean, yes, out of them came, you know, transformation. But David Swanson, in fact, in his book War is a Lie, makes a strong argument that war is the least effective way to bring about change. These calls for a civil war that I'm hearing from the right, and you know, and they're doing it with a lot of strutting and patting of their phallic symbols of their guns. I have a hard time taking it seriously. That, well, you know, I get it that there are people like the shooter in New Zealand who took it totally seriously.
If I could tell you, Tom, some of the things that they said, the death threat guys,
sure,
they are eagerly looking forward to this. And there's even a website, I didn't save it, called Thinning the Herd. Yeah. It's part of their national or international group. And by thinning the herd, they mean people of color, they mean excess people, because they really know that global warming is true, and they want to be the only survivors.
Yeah. It's a real tough one. It really is, David. And you know, on the one hand, I'm very concerned about the stochastic terrorism that is being encouraged by Donald Trump. When he refuses to call out white nationalists, for example, he's encouraging more of them, and they become terrorists, and that's, you know, it's what's been going on. It's been going on in a big way since the election of Obama, and it's been promoted by people like Donald Trump. But on the other hand, to freak out and say, oh my God, you know, or we can't talk about this, or we have to, you know, whatever, or we can't go there, you know, I think is like to just hand it to them. You know, they need to be dealt with like terrorists. I mean, the FBI needs to be on the case here. You know, it's if we still, you know, if as a country we believe in Gitmo, here's your place.